Hi everybody, this is a reply to Callie. Callie's wanting to know what the difference is between a nation and a state. That's a really basic question, and you all need to know this, but I can understand why you might be a little bit confused. Nation and state are the most fundamental of terms when understanding political geography. They're discussed on pages 177 and 178 of the textbook, so be sure and read that. Now, it's important for American students, especially, to understand the formal definitions of these terms because, number one, popular culture confuses us. Popular culture uses nation and state interchangeably, but incorrectly. When I say popular culture, I mean things like song lyrics and traditions like I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, one nation, okay? One nation. We don't say one state. So, and then we have the fact that the United States is made up of these units in this federal system that are called states. Okay, so the name of our country is the United States, and then we have those individual states. And so, what is the United States? Is it a state or is it a nation? It's a state. It's an independent state. Number three, the United States is actually one independent state. So, and then if you live in Oklahoma, you can be even more confused by all this because, first of all, we use nation state interchangeably, but in Oklahoma, you can be driving down the road and you can see these signs, the big green signs, and the sign will say, entering Muskogee Creek Nation. Wait a minute. A nation is a group of people, not a territory. So, in Oklahoma, we're terribly confused. The 573 federally recognized Indian tribes call themselves nations, and they also use the term nation to refer to territory. They may have reservations, they may have tribal jurisdictions. In Oklahoma, most of the tribes have historical boundaries that serve as a political tribal jurisdictional area. And so you see the term nation referring to territory when it should never refer to territory. But anyway, that's the way it goes. So remember, a nation is a group of people. It has a population. It's a nation if it has a population, okay? If it is just a group of people, just a group of people. Now, their textbook definition is a sizable group of people with a shared political aspiration whose collective identity is rooted in a common history, heritage, and attachment to a specific territory. Now, that's actually a fairly rigid definition. State is basically a territory. Now, the way I like to remember this, if a nation is basically a population of people, then a state is a territory. It's land. A state is just a land area that has boundaries around it, okay, and an independent state, recognized by other states. Now, the textbook definition, again, is fairly rigid and specific. It goes like this: an internationally recognized political unit with a permanently populated territory, defined boundaries, and a government with sovereignty over its domestic and international affairs. And that's really important because if the other states don't recognize you as a state, as a sovereign state, then you're not really a state. So that's really important. Now, here's just a couple things to think about. Is Texas a state in the formal sense? Not really, but it was between 1836 and 1845. It was a republic, so independent state. Now it's a unit of the United States. Is Oklahoma a state? No, despite all those Indian nations. Is the United States a state? Well, in this sense, yes, the United States is a sovereign, independent state. What are some places humans have been but are not parts of any state? Places human beings have been but are not parts of any state. Well, actually quite a large region, quite a large area of the surface of the earth The high seas, that is, the areas outside of the 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zones, 200 nautical miles away from any seacoast, is what we refer to as the high seas, or international waters. It's defined legally as terra nullius, that is, land without ownership, although it's not land. So the high seas are not owned by any particular state. They're not controlled, influenced by any particular state. So that's an interesting one. Antarctica, on the other hand, even though Antarctica is not part of any independent state, it is actually claimed by something like 7 different sovereign states. And to make it even more interesting, Antarctica is claimed by states that have conflicting claims. So they've divided Antarctica up like a pie, and certain countries have certain claims on certain wedges of Antarctica. It's very interesting if you look at the map. Just Google international claims to Antarctica. It's quite interesting. Other areas. The moon. How about the moon? Does anybody own the moon? The United States has a flag on the moon. But no, the fact of the matter is, in 1967, there was an outer space treaty that countries got together and said, no, we're not going to claim, nobody's going to get to claim the moon. But you think about this, the moon might have important mineral deposits. Mars might have important mineral deposits that individual countries or perhaps corporations might someday want to claim. So it's kind of up in the air right now. Now, you can go online and purchase real estate on Mars or on the moon. Those aren't necessarily legitimate, and you might have a hard case proving it in court. But anyway, something to think about. Areas that are claimed and not claimed on the surface of the earth by different countries, nations and states. I hope this was helpful.